Hey, Covenant kids, we are so glad that you are here. Today, we're going to begin our Christmas series, and we have an amazing Bible story to learn. We're going to hear all about how God keeps his promises. But before we jump into our story, let's spend some time worshiping together.
You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you. I worship you. Oh, you are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. You are here, touching every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, turning lives around. I worship you. I worship you. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. That is who you are. That is who you are.
I were granted one wish this Christmas, I think I would wish for a hoverboard. What about you? What would you wish for? Well, a long, long time ago, there was a man named Abraham. Abraham and his wife Sarah had a really big wish too. Their wish was for something that they didn't think they would ever have, but God promised to give them their wish, even though it seemed impossible. Do you think God kept his promise? Let's watch and see.
Hi everyone, I'm Carol, and guess what? I love Christmas! It's my favorite time of the year. Christmas! It's Christmas! It's Christmas! It's almost Christmas time! My favorite thing is Christmas music. But my favorite thing is Christmas treats, cookies, cocoa, peppermints. But my favorite thing is the reason for Christmas, God's Son, Jesus. If you're like me, you have a Christmas tree. I love mine. It's so green and Christmassy. But for me, one tree isn't enough. I have another tree that I like to decorate that is all about Jesus. This is Jesus' family tree. We get to celebrate Christmas because God sent Jesus to save us all from sin. He had earthly parents and grandparents and a whole bunch of ancestors. This tree is all about them. I made this ornament to represent one of Jesus' first ancestors, a man named Abram. Abram lived in a land called Haran with his dad's family and his wife named Sarai. The world they lived in wasn't perfect because humans had disobeyed God. This hurt their relationship with God, but it didn't stop God from loving them. He was going to bless the whole world through Abram and Sarai's family, specifically through Jesus. Pretty good. But it needs more everything. Now, Abram and Sarai were too old to have kids, so they were super surprised when God promised them they would have a new home and so many kids and grandkids that they would become a whole nation. But they trusted God and set out for the land He promised them. They traveled for years. God protected them and blessed them with lots of stuff. You know, like Christmas presents. But way back before Christmas was even invented. But no kids yet. Abram became so worried that he wasn't gonna have any kids, he chose his servant Eliezer to be his heir. Being his heir meant when Abram died, Eliezer would get Abram's money and stuff and his family name. Much better. I love candy! Abram only made this plan because he was afraid he wouldn't have kids. And God let him know Eliezer would not be his heir. Then God told Abram, look up at the sky. Count the stars if you can. That's how many children will be born into your family. Abram trusted God's promise. Years passed and still no kids. Abram had lost hope in God's promise and decided to have a son with Sarai's servant Hagar. This was not the son God promised. God didn't need Abram's help to make it happen. God has perfect timing. When Abram was 99 years old and Sarai was nearly 90, God reminded them of his promise again. As a sign of his promise, he gave Abram and Sarai new names, Abraham and Sarah. And he promised they'd have a son by the next year. Sure enough, the next year, Isaac was born. Eventually, Isaac had some children, and those children had some children, and those children had some children, and those children one day would lead the 12 tribes of Israel. And from one of those tribes, the tribe of Judah, Jesus would be born. It seemed like Abraham and Sarah were too old to have kids, but God kept his promise. And through their family, God blessed the entire world with his greatest promise, Jesus. God keeps his promises. If you want to find out who else God chose to be Jesus' ancestors, come back, because I'm going to fill up Jesus' tree. And speaking of fill up, someone needs their cup filled up with some more cocoa. Me. See you next time.
All right, kids.
kids, it's time for our word of wonder. It goes like this: the Lord Himself will give you a sign. The virgin is going to have a baby. She will give birth to a son, and he will be called Emmanuel. That is Isaiah 7:14. So we're going to do it again, and this time I'm going to go first, and then you're going to repeat after me. You ready? Okay. The Lord Himself will give you a sign. The virgin is going to have a baby. She will give birth to a son, and he will be called Emmanuel. Isaiah 7:14. Great job, guys!
Wow, what an amazing story of how faithful God is. He always keeps His promises. Abraham and Sarah wanted so badly to have a child of their own, but it seemed impossible because they were so old. But God promised them that their family would be so big, it would be like the number of stars in the sky. That's a lot of children, isn't it? And Abraham trusted in God even though it seemed impossible. As the years passed, Abraham and Sarah still didn't have a child, and so they decided to take matters into their own hands. Abraham had a son with Sarah's servant, and they named him Ishmael. But Ishmael was not the child that God had promised. You see, God doesn't need our help to fulfill His promises. God always keeps His promises, and in His perfect way, in His perfect time. Now, when Abraham was 99 years old, God came to him and reminded him again about that promise that God would make him the father of many nations, and that from his family kings would be born. God promised that in the next year, Sarah would have a son named Isaac. And sure enough, the very next year, Isaac was born. Eventually, Isaac would have his own children, and they would have children, and that would lead to the 12 tribes of Israel. And from one of those tribes, the tribe of Judah, God's own son Jesus would be born. Even when it looked unlikely that God's promise to Abraham would be fulfilled, when he and Sarah were so old, God kept His promise, and a great nation was born from Abraham and Sarah. And from their family, God blessed the whole world through His son Jesus. Sometimes it can seem like the thing we want most or need in our lives may never happen, but we have to trust in God's plan. His timing is always perfect, and God always keeps His promises. Okay, Covenant kids, now you know. God knows you, God loves you, and God leads you. Now go change your world.